Facebook. And I will be on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you there. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Laurel here. I'm so excited to be here. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. So glad to have y'all with us. Sherry in St. Louis. Denver's here. The UK is here. Calabasas, California is here. Did I say Cleveland, Texas already?
Cleveland, no.
And Cleveland, Texas and Beaumont, Texas. Thank y'all so much for being here and joining us on this Tuesday. And we are going to talk about the art of the pivot today. But before, I got to start with some PSAs, y'all. So, first of all, voting. I was telling Jerry I forgot my little vote sparkly pen. But I'm going to start remembering it. So today, the 18th, Alaska has a state primary, Florida has a state primary, and Wyoming has a state primary. Florida, Alaska, and Wyoming. So I know all of y'all registered to vote because we've been talking about that. Mm-hmm. And I know many of you early voted because that's a good thing to do. And those who didn't are gloved up, masked up, all of that, ready to be in line to vote. Good morning, Houston, Texas. Mm-hmm. So Florida, Alaska, and Wyoming, show up, show out, make your vote count. That's important. Mm-hmm. Second, let's talk a little bit about this whole voting thing and what's going on with the post office and all that drama. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. Good morning, Jackie. Or is that Jocelyn? Oh, Jackie. So they're talking a lot about they're taking mailboxes away, and there is some shady stuff going on with the post office. But I'm going to let the powers that be deal with that. Here's the thing. You need to make sure you do what you need to do to protect your vote. And you have options. And your only option is not to mail your ballot in. That is not your only option. Now, absentee voting, you should apply for your absentee vote. I don't think there's going to be an issue with those. But the other regular mail-in votes, that could be a problem. It could be delayed. You could get something that doesn't have the right postage on it, something like that. So if you are going to mail in your ballot or request a mail-in ballot, request a ballot early. Go on to your site. You can go to vote.org. You can go to the us.gov. Go and find out for your state where you need, what time and when and where you need to request your mail-in ballot. And then find the places where you can physically turn your ballot in. Because if you got a mail-in ballot, you can actually turn that ballot in. Usually it's like state elections offices or something like that. So find out where you can turn it in. You'll have to have your ID and all of those things you have to do, just like if you're going to go vote. But you can actually go hand your ballot in so you know that your ballot should be counted. So you don't have to rely on the U.S. Postal Service if you're really feeling uncomfortable about that. Or you can glove up and mask up and go early and stand 6 feet apart and vote. Vote early. The lines are going to look crazy long especially if people are social distancing like they're supposed to. I know when I voted in our state runoff, our state primary runoff, they had all the markings on the floor. They were separating people. I mean, it was a big deal. So they're really paying attention to that. So please get the information. Go out to a reputable source. If you want to mail in your ballot, go get it early. If you can early vote. If you're going to mail in your ballot, mail that in early as well. Don't give people an opportunity to steal your vote just because you weren't prepared. Mm-hmm. Because here's the deal. No matter what they do, you have other choices. That's just the truth. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to rely on something that you feel is shady or unreliable. You can go vote. If you know someone who is compromised, make sure that they can get their ballot in, that they can turn it in, whatever needs to happen. Just make sure that you are paying attention and that you are making sure your vote counts, because that is really important. Okay? So Alaska, Florida, Wyoming, today is your day. Make it happen. The census is still going. They are going to have people counting, but I just saw an article. No, they are going to have people counting, full stop. And I just saw an article that they are actually stopping the count about a month early. They are stopping the count about a month early. That means you need to get off your rear end and make sure you are counted. because this is getting really close to the election. This is going to determine how we are represented, how many people we have in our representation. So please fill out your census. There isn't a citizenship question on the census right now. Now, I think they're probably trying to do some other stuff, but you know, at some point, y'all, we just got to do what's right.
That's right.
We just have to do what's right. And then if enough of us are just doing what's right and not tolerating the stuff that's wrong, it will be fine. But enough of us just got to do what's right. So that's that. Voting and census. Now, I'm going to give this to Jerry too, so she has it. I have posted it on my sites. I'm going to keep doing videos. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the 24th, 25th, and 26th of August, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., the 5 Secret Summit I'm giving. It's the 5 secrets to building or rebuilding your dream team. So it's only 3 days. It's an hour and a half each evening because folks got stuff to do, including me. But I want to share this with you. I want to share this with you. And so you can go to laurelrutledge.com/summit to sign up. It's $97 for all 3 days. And I'm also going to give away a couple of memberships to an online resource that I have for those of you who need some HR help. It's self-service. It's got some little modules on it. It's got some downloadable stuff. It's at least a place to start. And I'm going to be giving away some consulting hours, and then I'll let you know how you can join the membership for the online thing at a significantly discounted rate. So that is happening 24th, 25th, 26th. I will continue to promote that. And I believe we also set up the text registration, so you can text the word rebuild to 474747. So again, the word rebuild to 474747. So I think you can register that way too. Okay, so go vote. Go get registered if you have not registered to vote. Go find a way to get involved. I think I'm gonna go see if I can be a poll watcher. I gotta see if I can work that. Oh no, because I'll be on the show. That's a Tuesday, Jerry.
Oh, wow.
November 3rd is a Tuesday. We will be here. I will be here doing the show, y'all. I won't be at a poll, but I'll be watching. I'm so excited. So I love voting day, Jerry. I do. So make sure you vote. Make sure you are getting registered. Make sure you get involved in the process, whatever that means for you. Good morning, Nancy. Make sure, whatever that means for you, that you get involved in the process. So now, let's talk about, and that's Longview, Texas. Let's talk about the art of the pivot. So over the last few weeks, I've talked to a couple of people. Actually, I've talked to a lot of people, but over the last 2 weeks, I've talked to a couple of people who have made some pretty significant pivots in their career. And what is interesting is every time I talk to someone about it, then someone else comes to me about something that's going on in their life, and I'm like, ooh, so somebody else is talking about pivoting. And so this week, on the podcast, so it will come out Wednesday morning. It's always released about 6 a.m. Wednesday morning. I'm interviewing a woman named Allison Dyer. She was in the mastermind with me. And her interview is fantastic, so I'm going to let you listen to it. Please listen to it. Please subscribe, all that stuff. But here's the thing about pivot that we talked about. And she said something absolutely masterful. Good morning, Odessa. It was, remember that just deciding to pivot is not necessarily a failure. It is not necessarily a failure. And so for her, she was in corporate a long time. She did, climbed the corporate ladder, did some great stuff, went out, built a 7-figure business, a really successful 7-figure business, decided to pivot that business. So left corporate, pivoted to entrepreneurship. Within her entrepreneurship journey, she decided to pivot and change to kind of a product-driven piece. She is a marketing strategist. She's an expert in marketing and sales and business strategy. And then she, COVID happened, some other things happened, and she's like, you know what? I need to make another pivot because I need to do some things for my family. I've got to make sure that we have a little bit more stability for some other things that are coming up. And so she went back into corporate. And just like when I left corporate this last time, I had so many people saying, oh my God, are you crazy? Are you nuts? You got a job? What do you mean? You're leaving? You're leaving all that money? You're leaving all that title? Blah, 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 blah. They couldn't thought I was crazy. Well, for her and for other people I've talked to about this, it was the same thing. It was, wait a minute, you did entrepreneurship. Now you're going back to corporate. Or they would say, oh, I'm so sorry it didn't work out. I'm so sorry you couldn't build your business. She's like, I'm not apologizing, and I don't feel sorry, and don't feel sorry for me. Because here's the thing that was powerful about that. the people that were seeking her out, because number one, now that she'd gone out of corporate, gone into entrepreneurship and was going back, she knew specifically what she wanted to do. She was very picky about the role she was looking for. And as she started looking for a role and she was talking to people, it wasn't necessarily all that corporate experience that she had, but it was the fact that as she was running her business, a very successful business, she was willing and able and capable to take the risk and to take the hard decision to say, you know what, I got to do something different. I got to shut this down for now. I got to put pause here and do something else. And they were looking for someone who could take in data, see the landscape, make a difficult but definitive decision and keep it moving. And that's what got her the next position. And so as we were talking about this, she said, she used this word downshift. And I was like, that I'm going to have to coin downshift. She said, because often we think of a change. We change our job. We change our role. We change positions. When we change companies, we may move to a position that was not at the same level or something. And we always look at that, or people look at that for us, as a failure or a step back or a stumble. And she said, you know, but it's none of those things. It's just a downshift. And I was like, oh, now I like that. Now, for those of you who don't drive a standard shift or don't understand a standard shift, and I love a good standard shift. I do. I know I'm so weird, but I love it. I love a standard shift, you know, because it's active, right? You're actually participating in the driving process. But when you downshift, like if you're driving through hills or mountains or anything like that, you downshift to get a little more power in the engine so you can climb up faster, right? Downshift. So as she was talking, I was like, that is fantastic, because sometimes you need to downshift in your career to learn something else, to develop something else, to get more skills, to fill a gap, to give you more power, more torque, to climb that next mountain. Can I get an amen, Jim?
Amen, girl, you confirming stuff.
I'm just saying, right?
Preach it.
So when she said that yesterday, I thought, oh my gosh, I have got to talk to people about this. I was already going to talk about pivoting, but I've got to talk to people about this. So listen to the interview with Allison. It comes out on Wednesday. And that whole idea of making moves.
Downshift again.
So when you downshift, so on a 5-speed engine, right, it goes from 1 through 5 or 6 or whatever your gears are. And the lower the gear, it's like kind of the slower the engine is moving, right? The more torque you have. And so when you have a 4-wheel drive, when you put it in 4-wheel drive, not only are all 4 wheels able to turn independently, but you get more power in each of those wheels to be able to push you up a mountain or through rivers or whatever. So when you downshift, like she's talking about, it actually slows the engine down. You get more turn and more power in the wheels. So it is pushing you further. Think about people who bike, right? So the 10-speed bikes, when they are climbing, if you're watching Tour de France, you see people who are standing up on their bike pedaling. They downshifted the gear so that every time you push the pedal, the wheel is actually turning slower but harder. So when you're at high speed, I mean, it's just, the wheel is just running. But you want more power, so you downshift. So in your career, you downshift to get more power, to get more information, to get more knowledge, to get more content, whatever it is, so that then you've got more power, more torque, more tools to push you forward faster. It was just masterful. When she said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I might need to write a book about that. The power of the downshift.
Write that book before I do it.
Right?
Nita Thomas just said, that's all I drive. I love my standard vehicle.
See? That's what I'm saying, Nita.
I like that terminology, though.
Yes, I do too. Yeah. I do too, the downshift, because we do have a tendency to think of change, especially if that change means you're doing something backwards or lateral or down, as a failure or a problem. And that's not necessarily the case. It's just not. Sometimes we would tell people all the time when they were talking to us in HR about career, or talking to us about where they wanted to move and they wanted to do something they'd never done before, and we were like, well, there's this other position, but it's not going to be the same level. It's a little bit different level. Oh my gosh, I can't, wait a minute, what? And the reality is, none of us know everything about everything. None of us know everything about everything. And so being willing to take that lateral move because you want to learn something new or meet new people or expand your skills, or being willing to take that downshift, because then you're building something that is going to put more tools in your toolbox and make you more valuable and give you the opportunity to add more value. And I actually like that better than make you more valuable. Give you an opportunity to add more value. Then take that as an opportunity and not as a slam on your capability or your intelligence or any of that stuff, because that's not true. It's just not true. The truth is, in fact, those who are willing to take a chance to learn something they didn't know, even if it means that they are taking a lateral move or a move that's a little bit lower position, at least in terms of level, are actually more courageous and greater risk takers than most. And when the next opportunity comes and they are looking for experience this broad instead of this broad, that's the person that's ready.
That's good.
That's the person that's ready, because they have taken the opportunity to think bigger than just what's happening to them right now. They have taken the opportunity to pivot, to downshift, to move where they need to move. Because everything isn't about just up. It's not about just up. Now, some of us, that's our eye is on the prize. The prize is CEO. And I say more power to you, because that CEO thing is any kind of executive level. People think it's just all glamour. And I'm just here to tell you, it's not. It is not what you think it is.
It's not.
There is, in most cases, there is definitely more money. In most cases, there is definitely a different level of prestige. In most cases, there are doors that may be open to you just because of the title as you move to those executive ranks. And the level of risk you have to take, the level of accountability, the level of responsibility, the number of people now looking to you to make decisions for them, to lead them, to care for them, is exponential. And it is lonely at the top. That saying is so true. It is lonely at the top, because when you are at that level, there's only so many people you can actually talk to, especially if you're doing that level at corporate. There are compliance reasons why you can only talk to some people about some things, right? There is a need to protect the company, protect the business, protect people. You have to be very discerning about who you talk to and what you talk to them about. So your group of confidants becomes really, really small and really, really tight. And then for HR people, if you're an HR executive, your confidants actually will tend to be people who may not even be in your company, because you most certainly can't talk about some of the stuff that's going on with other people in your organization. But you also need some sounding board. Now, maybe if it's a good company and it's done the right way, the HR person, the CFO, and the CEO are like the trifecta. Those three should be connected at the hip. The people person, the money person, and then the lead of the company. They got to be connected. And if they're not connected, like if your HR is reporting up to a COO or something crazy like that, I just say, just rethink that. But understand that that decision that the only way to move is up has some great things associated with it, but don't get blinded by the title and the money and the prestige, because all of that stuff comes with the dark side. And it's another reason why this downshift may make sense if that's what your ultimate goal is. Because if you downshift, then you broaden your exposure to stuff that maybe you don't know yet. So when you are at the top of the heap, you've got so many things in your toolbox. You have seen so much stuff that your ability to remain calm, your ability to respond well, your ability to come up with creative ideas, your ability to show compassion and understanding is greater, because you've seen more stuff.
Can I bring up two things you
Yes.
said about the downshift? And when you were talking about that, because when you walked in, you and I were talking about golf.
Yes.
And when I realized that you played golf, and my story that I was going to tell got more interesting to me to tell it, because I'm like, what? You play golf.
Yeah, I don't play well, y'all.
But you don't play well.
No.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Because I like to win.
But I look good.
But anyway, when you said that, I got excited. But
Yeah.
while I was telling you when I was playing golf yesterday and hitting the ball, I stayed out there for hours and not knowing that was really what I needed. And I was thinking at first, I'm supposed to be doing more than this. It looked like I'm just chilling, just out here hitting the ball. But I was getting information. It was like my mind was getting unwound. And then I remembered having this 5.0 Mustang convertible, and it was always going into the shop. And one day the guy says, we're going to have to keep it for a much longer time. It needs a total overhaul.
Ooh.
And what we're going to do is put some headers in the engine, and it'll give you more horsepower.
Yeah.
So, of course, I wanted the power. So I'm like,
yeah.
let's make it work. I don't care how
it
works. So when you said that about the overhaul, that's what I was thinking about yesterday, about how the car had to go in to get an overhaul, and they had to find some things that was falling down.
Yes.
Find some things that could be added to it.
Yes.
So when you're speaking, this is like, wow.
Yes.
That makes good sense.
So
a lot of us are rushing to get this done and get that done and move into this new normal.
Right.
When we might have to dissect some things and downshift for a moment.
Downshift for a minute.
Wow.
Downshift for a minute. That's true. And truly, y'all, these are the kind of things that I guess if you can continue to follow me, you'll find out, because I'm just pretty transparent. So when Jerry and I were talking about golf and what that means, when you look at downshifting, and when I had this conversation with Allison yesterday, and even if you go back and listen to the interview I did with Kelly Bradley, the key things that both of them said as well is sometimes you need to just slow down and take the time. Do a pro and con list. Think about what you really want to do. And the reason I bring that up in context of golf is I did start playing golf. I started playing golf when I was living in Detroit, because I was working at a professional services firm, and they did golf outings all the time, because that's what you do, a professional services firm. And you either got to sit at the pool with all the old ladies, or you got to play golf. And they were just the sweetest little old ladies. They really were. But I really didn't want to just sit at the pool. And I like being outside because it's Michigan, so it's not as hot, right? Mm-hmm. And so I learned to play golf, took lessons, did all that kind of stuff. I am horrible, but I look fantastic. As Bobby Castellino Lewis says, dress for the day you want. I figure if you look good and you feel good, then you might be able to convince yourself you can actually play. So I was cute. Everything matched, head to toe. But it really, that whole idea of golf for me, as Jerry and I were talking about, was I'm in my head a lot. I think a lot. I process a lot. I'm always analyzing. But I can't do that when I'm playing golf. Mm-hmm. You have to focus. So it is the one thing, or one of the few things, that I can do that really makes me not think about the other stuff that's bothering me. You have to focus. If you're playing golf, you have to focus. If you want to play well, you have to focus. And so as you are thinking about what you want to do and where you want to go, rebuilding your business, rebuilding your team, opening back up, completely pivoting, because we're talking about the art of the pivot. Give yourself a chance to really spend some time thinking about what you want to do, and be okay to pivot. Don't be afraid to pivot. Because if you can pivot once and it doesn't work out, you can pivot again.
Break down pivot.
So pivot means basically change, right? Pivot is not, I think the quote I said was, pivot is not the end of disruption. It is the beginning of a journey. Mm-hmm. So if you think about a pivot, and every time if you pull up pivot on Google, all you see is the Friends scene where they're trying to move a couch and you hear Ross's character go, pivot! That's what you see all the time. But it basically means to turn like on a center, right? You're going to pivot. And so it doesn't mean that you have to turn everything upside down. Sometimes a pivot is just a slight change. Sometimes it's a complete change in direction. Whatever makes sense at the time, but you've got to take the chance and give yourself the grace and the opportunity to think about what you really want to do next. And then if you're planning it, just do it. Step out on fear, do it afraid, as they say. Step out on faith, do it afraid. And then if you have to change again, you just change again. Most of the time, our problems with pivots is that we're afraid to pivot. We're afraid to pivot. We are afraid to do something different. Yeah, Leila just said, good morning, Carlsbad, California. Just said it means to adjust quickly, and it does. We've all had to pivot. If you think about, here's a good example of pivot, y'all. All of the alcohol companies that started making hand sanitizer, that's a pivot. They found a need in the market because of the situation we were in, and they changed their business. They didn't turn it upside down. They didn't stop everything else they were doing, but they pivoted so that they could take everything that they knew. They took all the experience they had. They took all the equipment they had and just made something different. That was a pivot. That was a pivot. There was that one couple that turned trucks to clean masks. Remember that? They took like food trucks or something and they made masks. Mm-hmm. The people who took their 3D printers and started making the shields. Yeah. Those are pivots. They weren't making shields before COVID. But they took what they had. They took the equipment that they had. They downshifted to learn what they needed to learn, and then took all of that and pivoted. That's what that means.
That's good.
That's what that means, right? So the challenge is change is hard. Even if it's a change we want to make, change is hard. And so it's easy for people to talk us out of the change we know we need to make. Because we hear our own voices saying, "Ooh, I don't know, it might be hard. What if it fails? What if I don't know what I'm doing? What if I..." And then when other people come at you and say, "Oh, are you sure? I don't know. Is that really what you want to do?" It just feeds into all of that. So
especially if you were highly skilled before that, and then you have to switch it. I think the pivoting part becomes a problem if you already made plans, and now you have to adjust quickly.
Right.
And she said that makes a difference. But yeah. Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest fear is if you've been skilled
absolutely
in that one direction, then you have to make an adjustment quickly.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Again, if you think about the examples that I gave you, it wasn't that people were making alcohol and all of a sudden they started building trucks.
That's good.
Right? They were making alcohol. Part of the ingredients are ingredients that also go into hand sanitizer, which is kind of scary. The same process is used to make hand sanitizer. So you use the skills you have, the materials you have to do something that's a little bit different product, but it's not necessarily a complete change. If I think about, leaving corporate, I didn't leave corporate as an executive, a business executive who happened to be a specialist in HR and go do basket weaving. Mm-hmm. I am doing business consulting and HR. That's what I'm doing. I'm advising people. I'm coaching people. I'm helping with HR. So I took what I knew and the skills that I knew, and I've pivoted away from working for someone else to working for me, so I can serve more people.
Now, let me say this, and let me share it up in Patterson in St. Louis, Missouri said, "I love this lady. She can simplify anything so that it makes sense to everyone. Thank you so much." Jackie Foreman, Jackie Foreman, she says, "Good morning to each of you."
Good morning, Jackie.
When you say that again, what you just said, and then I got off track because I was looking. God,
now once I say it.
Pivot. What did I? Okay.
Once I say it, I was saying that when I left corporate, I didn't completely change what I was doing and go from HR to like basket weaving. I took what I knew, and I'm still serving in that same capacity. I'm just serving for me and serving more people.
And there it goes, because that was a conversation I had. It's stuff that you can do for other people,
yes,
and you do it effortlessly. But when it's time for you to do it for yourself, you act like you're new to it. You just hit it.
All brand new.
From that, because it's a lot of stuff that I did for other people.
Yes.
That's like, it's a chore for me to do it for me.
Right. Because many times we don't think of ourselves as our own customer. And that sounds really weird, but when you think about what you have to do in this life, right? You gotta go to the grocery store. You gotta put gas in your car. You gotta get your car fixed. You gotta do all these kind of things. You are serving yourself as a customer. Mm-hmm. When you get a new skill, when you go get a job, when you exercise, when you eat right, you are serving you. And unfortunately, we don't always think about the things we do for ourselves as service to ourselves, because we're not taught to do that. Right? Because service is always about other people. Mm-hmm. But as my friend Holly always says, sometimes you got to be a little selfish in order to be selfless.
That's good.
So we got to take care of ourselves in order to take care of others. And so even when we're talking about pivoting, when we talk about looking at the next thing we can do, the next way we can serve, we often don't always see our opportunity because we don't always see our skill as it relates to us. And that's not always bad, because the good thing, like in talking to Allison, the good thing, or the thing that's important about marketing and determining what you want to do, is you got to know what problem you're trying to solve so that you can identify the customer you're trying to serve, right? That's like standard kind of marketing. Know your customer. Know who you're serving, because when you know who you're serving, you know their problem and you know the solution you're bringing. The challenge is we don't always know ourselves as well as we think about the other people we're trying to serve. Because that takes a lot of self-awareness. That also takes an ability to say, yeah, I'm not good at that. I want to be, or I know I'm not good at that, and no matter what I do, I am never going to become a scratch golfer. It's not happening. So then I can decide, does that mean I never want to play golf again? Or does that mean I just have fun at the level I can have fun, right? So it's the same thing when you're trying to decide what you want to do and where you want to go. There are things that I absolutely love. I love You know, when I first went away to college, I wanted to be a physics major because I love physics. I love learning how things work. I love understanding that it's not centrifugal force, it's centripetal force. I love that. I love those kind of things. And then as I got into the classes, like, you know, just because you love something doesn't mean you're good at it. Just because you love something doesn't mean you're good at it. So what can I do? So I can go do something I'm good at that still gives me joy, but then I can still pay attention to stuff that's physics related, right? I can read stuff, I can watch shows, I can do all those kind of things that still feed that desire to learn and understand and participate. But I knew I was never going to be a great physicist. I just knew that. Now, I am an introvert, but even being in a lab all the time is even more introverted than I can be. I knew I needed a little bit more people interaction than that, right? Mm-hmm. So as we begin to look at pivoting, and this gets back to being very, if you are uncomfortable for some reason, examine why you're uncomfortable, determine what you can do about that, and then make a change. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting something different to happen. So if you're not happy, if you're not learning, if you're not growing, if the things that you're wanting are not occurring, then what are you going to do about it? Are you willing to do what needs to happen to pivot? Are you willing to adjust quickly so that you can get to where you want to be? And sometimes, y'all, the answer to that is no, and that's okay. But just own that. Because sometimes we have a family situation, a personal situation, whatever, where we have to stay where we are or have to keep doing what we're doing because that's just what we need right now. But you shouldn't feel bad about that. And you shouldn't feel like you're letting yourself down unless the truth of the matter is you just don't want to do the work to do something different. Now, that's different. Mm-hmm. And that's a conversation you have to have with you. Because pivoting is not easy. Because not only are you battling your own head trash, but you're probably battling everybody else's. Many of whom have really good intentions, but some of whom would just as soon see you fail.
And when you hit it on the head earlier, because pivoting also means, like you said, it's not just for you. Sometimes when you pivot and you downshift, you do have other people you have to consider, because maybe other people that you have to consider is not going to be in the new downshift. Because now you're doing that overhaul and you're finding out what works, what didn't work, and how I need to do this to get more power.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I saw somebody post the other day, they were talking about, you know, as you continue to grow, the same people that were with you on the path are not necessarily the people going to be with you at the end of the path. And that doesn't mean you don't love them and that you used them. That's not what that means. But everybody is not going to be able to go on the journey with you, and most definitely won't be able to be there at the end with you.
Did you ever see this meme where Ronald McDonald started out with the Hamburglar and the little robber guy and all those people were with him? And then years later, he was standing by himself with 10 billion sold. That's
exactly, that's great. I haven't seen that. That's true. That's true. And if you are paying attention, things will weed themselves out for you. So it's not like you're having to say, oh, I can't deal with you anymore. Oh, you got to go. I can have you, you know, and people do that. People do that. But that's not necessary. Because if you are, it's really not necessary. Because if you are continuing to move positively in the direction you're supposed to go, all of that stuff will fall out. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything, because the people who can't take it will leave. Because they can't stand your ability to be flexible and progress and stay positive. So they'll eventually go away. Now, you may have to have some difficult conversations along the way. You may need to remove them from your spirit at some point. But you don't necessarily have to be actively just discarding people. That happens naturally. That happens naturally. As you continue to grow, as you continue to build, as you continue to move, those people who are meant to be with you will be. Yes. And there are people who will come back that you may not have seen in a very long time, who will come back and be a part of your life that are meant to be there now. But there was a reason they weren't there for a period, right? So they say people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So don't try to make a lifetime out of a reason or a season. I'm just saying.
You saying it again. I'm a license.
Right? because when we do that, and we're so worried about those folks who are in right now, and we should be concerned about our village, right? Who's in your village? Who are the people who are really supporting you? Who are you surrounding yourself with? That's important. It's important for your own health and well-being. It is important because we are beings who like to be connected, and we are connected. That's how we operate. Some of us are more introverted than others, but there's still this human connection. So it's important to have people around you, but you get to have a choice.
That's good.
You get to have a choice. And even if you are in a job working for somebody else, you get to have a choice.
That's good.
There may be people you have to work with that you don't necessarily enjoy working with, but nothing in a job description says you have to be friends. I tell people that all the time. I am not required to be your friend. What I'm required to be is collegial, collaborative, and constructive. That's it. That's it. We don't have to be friends. We don't have to go have a drink. I don't need to know what your kids are doing and where you went on vacation. Most of the time, I probably don't care, to be honest. Because that's just not my thing, right? Because I don't want to tell you all mine.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ask you all of yours. If I'm asking you that kind of stuff and I'm really interested, then we are tight. Because otherwise, it's surface for me. And not because I don't care about people, because I have a lot of compassion. I just get, my energy drains really quickly.
That's good.
I just know that about me. And if I have expelled way too much energy, like usually after the show, I have to go take a nap. So if I expelled a lot of energy, it's a lot of energy. I love it. It's a lot of energy. And I recharge by being by myself, right? And being quiet and being still. And so I know about me that the more energy I expel, the more time I'm going to need to recharge.
You're helping me because I've been wanting to be to myself, and I used to be a people person. But since this pandemic, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Because you're expelling a lot of energy, keeping people
energy.
Motivated, encouraged, inspired, uplifted. Right. But then when you're done, you're done.
You're done.
You want to be to yourself.
You're done. And I had to learn a long time ago, and even my family knows now. In the morning, I'm a morning person. Like, I'm up early. I just am a morning person. But that doesn't mean I want to engage first thing in the morning.
Girls, you cold.
Morning person does not equal talkative in the morning.
That's good.
I'm just saying, y'all. So all you people who have morning people in your life, don't be upset when they're not wanting to talk in the morning. Now, there are people who, the minute their eyes open, their mouth starts moving. That's not me. That's not me. I need a minute. So, you have to understand that sometimes the expelling of energy, and what I do takes a lot of energy. Working with people on HR, working with people on their personal advisory stuff, it takes a lot of energy, and I love it. I love it, but I also manage my time so that I am fully present and fully engaged with every person I talk to and every client I work with. And that means that I can't do back-to-back 20 people in a day. Or if I do, then I need a couple of days to recover. And so, because now it's my own business, I get a chance to do that. I can schedule it in a way that I know that I always show up 100%. That was a pivot for me. I'm not on somebody else's schedule. I'm on mine.
That's a word in 2019 that could be left behind for real. It's the grind. You got to grind.
The grind, yes.
Because I never did like that word really. And I don't mean because you're lazy or lackadaisical. But a lot of times we were focusing on grinding so much, grinding so much, that you didn't take the time to downshift.
Right.
You didn't take the time to really pivot and to learn you and what you need to function.
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly. And it's important to know yourself. It just is. It's important to know yourself. I know me. And I just am who I am. And there are things that I continue to work on every day. And then there's other stuff that I'm like, that's just who I am. Now, most of the stuff that's just who I am is nothing that's going to hurt anyone else. Right? So, because, we got other folks that may not be the case, who shall remain nameless. But, it is important to understand when you're interacting with others that the way you interact with them impacts them positively or negatively. And so for me, it is important that as much as possible, and none of us are 100%, but as much as possible, I show up 100% as authentic, as clean, and as much of service as I can possibly be. As positive, as forward thinking as I can possibly be. And I also know when I'm to a place where I'm like, I just can't. I can't today. I know that about me. And I'm very clear with people to say, it's been a really long day. I'm going to need a minute. Just give me a minute. I will be back. Or even with my teams. There were a couple times I'd say with my teams, today I am not my normal, patient, open, understanding self. So I am here. I am present. I am listening. We are going to get through all of this stuff, but understand my response or lack thereof may be different than you expect from me today. And the feedback I got every time was, thank you for letting us know. Because otherwise people think you've done something to them. Because you're not, it's not that you're showing up not as who you are, but you're showing up in a way that they're not used to seeing you. And so now that it's just me and I can show up how I want to, when I want to, in conjunction with my clients. I mean, you have to be reasonable. I can manage more of that to make sure that my energy is at peak level when I am showing up. Because that's critical.
That's good. Especially in this climate with the pandemic, it's really, we should give people more grace in this time.
Absolutely.
Because we really don't know what people are going through in the midst of this. They see you, when you say just because you get up early in the morning, I notice that if I get on Facebook early in the morning, which I do, to do my drive-bys, I got about 10 people waiting to talk in my inbox. I'm not on here to talk. I'm posting my drive-by. Don't do that. How do you turn that light off? Because as soon as they see you on there, they just assume this way. Can you pray for me about this or asking you questions, and you're not on there to talk. So you have to be honest with people. Then there was a young lady that kind of, you have to explain a lot to her one day. And she was on my live, and I said, listen, I don't have the energy today for a bunch of confusion. I don't have energy for you trying to explain nothing today. I'm just being honest. You'll never have to ask me what I think because I'm going to tell you. So is that unkind to be truthful that you don't have the energy for certain things in this season?
It is not unkind to be clear.
Okay.
It is not unkind to be clear. What can be unkind is the words you use to be clear. But it's not unkind to be clear. And so just like I said with my team, guys, I am here. I am present. Just understand there's a lot of other stuff that I'm having to work through today. And so I may not be as open and as kind as I normally am, right? Or as patient as I normally am. And so they understood that it wasn't them. Because most of the time, if you're reacting in a certain way, people assume they have done something to you. Or you build a reputation that says, oh, it doesn't matter what she's doing. You know, she's always going to be nasty to people or what have you. So you do have to watch your reputation. This poor little dog, y'all. See, this is what happens.
That dog is dangerous, dog. I was going to tell you, be careful when you see him walk outside.
This is the challenge with a person like me who's like, ooh, squirrel. when you're in a studio.
That's the street dog. That dog's whirling.
See, when you're in a studio with windows and stuff, so you see all kinds of stuff walking by. So, back to point.
That's a crack dog, man.
Right. So it is really as we are trying to get back to business, and I use business broadly, right? Get back to business, running our lives, running our businesses, running our careers, as we're getting back to just doing stuff we need to be doing. This has been a time when we also had the opportunity to really think and evaluate and consider not only what we are doing, but what we should be doing, what we want to do, how we want to do it, all of those kind of things. And it's a perfect time to pivot. It's really scary, right? It is really scary. And there are people who are losing employment, having trouble finding employment, but there are people hiring, y'all. People are hiring. You just got to look, and you got to really get connected on LinkedIn. I've said that before. Make sure you are connected on LinkedIn. And people even on LinkedIn are saying more and more and more. I just saw several posts last week saying if somebody is unemployed and reaches out to you to connect, just connect with them. If there's a way that you can connect them with somebody else, just be kind, right? So you're seeing more and more of that. I think kindness is having a resurgence. So if it's time for you to pivot, I can't think of a better time than now to do that. I cannot think of a better time than now to do that, because there is some stillness, there is some settling, there is some realigning, and so there's no reason why you can't be a part of that. Just take your time to really think about what the pivot is that you need to make.
You know, when you walked in here, and you look nice, everybody see her on there, she looks so cute. When you walked in here, I said, girl, you stepped in here like you're going to CNN. You said one day, you said we already in UK, already on the BBC Global. And that is my mindset on an everyday basis, that it's got to be greater than where you are in your mind. But the minute you stop thinking on those levels, might be a time to pivot, because if you lose the passion for what you do, you're not going to be a good service to those that are dependent upon you. So I love that. Right.
And passion is important. And that doesn't mean that you love every aspect of everything you do.
Right.
That's not what that means. It means that at your heart and your soul level, you love what you do. You love the service that you're in. I mean, you know, every Friday I try to get on and make sure I'm going through all of my accounts and doing all, and I hate it. I hate it. I just hate it. But you have to, it's all that kind of administrative stuff that you have to do, you know, making sure your bills are paid, making sure you got everything done, making sure I've responded to clients, making sure I've sent thank you notes, all those kind of things. It makes me crazy. But I do it because it's important, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I'm still passionate about this business. And those are pieces that are critical to the business being successful.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you're the vibe. You're the whole vibe. That's what it's
I'm it.
You're the vibe because, and if your vibe is lost,
right,
then the business is lost.
Exactly. I am my brand. So I have to show up. And so really, as you're moving through this week, and I posted this on Monday, I think, I really want you to marinate on, is it time for you to pivot? And a pivot could just be in your career if you're working for somebody else, right? You're in marketing and maybe it's time for you to go to engineering or sales or accounting or something. Maybe it's time to pivot. If you are bored, if you're not challenged, if you have no passion, if you are just having trouble getting up every day to go to work because you just hate it, and I've been there, it is not worth it. It is not worth it to hate what you do every day.
It's not.
It is not worth it. And don't get me wrong, we all got bills to pay. Well, most of us got bills to pay. And so don't do something that's going to hurt you because you're mad at somebody else. And there is no reason to stay miserable. There are too many other things to do. There are too many other things to do. Make a plan. Make a plan. And then execute your plan. Because misery, they say misery loves company. I guess at some level it does. But misery is not comfortable. So don't stay in misery. Because you have a choice. You have a choice.
And sometimes it's not really a far-fetched from what you're already doing.
Exactly.
You just might not want to do it for that person any longer, but you got it. But here's an integral point. If you're going to make a switch and say you're an accountant and you decide you're going to do your own accounting firm, don't take them people customers.
Yeah. Now, yeah, you have to be careful. So, you still have to operate in integrity, y'all. Yeah. So, and if you are working for someplace and you decide to go do your own business, that is one thing. What Jerry says, you do have to be very careful, especially if you're at a bigger organization, because they will come after you. And you have to make sure, you know, what did you sign? Did you sign some non-solicitation? So here's your detailed answer to stuff. If you signed a non-solicitation agreement, which means you will not solicit customers or other employees, you need to know that. If you sign non-disclosure, that means you won't give away pricing, you won't give away trade secrets, all that kind of stuff. You just need to know what you signed when you work for them. And if your pivot is to go start a business, you need to make sure that nothing you are doing is somehow going to be in the same line of business. Because if it's in the same line of business, that's going to be really hard. But even if it's not the same line of business, but it's the same thing you were doing before, you just got to make sure you protect you. And here's the thing, along those same lines. If you are in a corporate role and you know that what you want to be as an entrepreneur, and you are making a plan for that, you got your 9 to 5, but you're doing your little side hustle, it is always easier to find a job when you got one. It's always easier to start a new business when you've got a job that's funding that. So again, plan. We talk about this all the time. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. Plan. If you have an opportunity where you actually have funding, where you can keep doing what you're doing, you can keep paying bills, you can focus on your side gig, use what you're doing now to build your network, to build your reputation, to build your contacts, to build your connections, so that when you do go out on your own, people know who you are and what you're doing. And here's what's important. Here's a piece of learning for you guys. You can learn from my experience. So, you know, I started this business. I love this business. The business is moving, you know, all of that. It takes a while. So I'm going to be out for 2 months and then, you know, it'll be all good. That was naivete. However, the other thing that I really realized is while I spent a lot of time ensuring that my teams and the people on my teams got out, talked to people, made sure they were connected, all that kind of stuff, I wasn't doing that for me. Because I was so busy with the executives and all the kind of drama that we were dealing with, and I was dealing with on a regular basis, both globally and domestically, that the stuff I needed to do for me, the networking I needed to do for me, the connection I needed to make for me didn't happen because my energy was gone. Gone. I told y'all I didn't sleep for, 6 years on a Sunday night. My energy was just gone. And so one of the things I realized was, man, I have not taken care of me and building kind of as many external relationships as I wanted. So if you learn anything from my experience, if you are thinking about going out on your own, you're thinking about doing something different, and you are currently employed by someone else, make sure that you are not spending 100% of all of your effort, all of your energy, all of your skills, all of your assets on that organization. You need to reserve a little bit of what you've got for you. That's just the truth. You need to reserve a little bit of what you've got for you, especially if you're getting ready to go out on your own. So make sure that you are continuing to build yourself up. You're building your reputation outside of what you do every day, because your job is what you do. It's not who you are. It's what you do. It's not who you are. I would even argue that for doctors, nurses, all those people who have highly skilled. Someone may be a doctor, but they are a person, right? What they do is they do medicine, right? They heal people. That's what they do. They are a medical professional, right? But fundamentally, they are someone who seeks the opportunity to care for people and make people well. As Cary Grant said, I think the movie was, what was it? People Will Talk. I make sick people well, right? That's what they do. Mm-hmm. That's what they do.
You know what, when you said that, because I was thinking about some years ago, over 20-something years ago, when I worked for this station called KYOK, and a lot of my listeners were in Conroe because it was stationed in Conroe, Huntsville, and Dallas, and all those areas. And years later, came here, and I have those same listeners. It's because what you do, when you said don't be what you, that's what you do. I did radio in Conroe.
Right.
But who I was the personality that they traveled to find.
Exactly.
So when you are the vibe,
yeah,
you may leave that building, but you're still going to be the vibe somewhere else.
It's still you.
Yeah, it's still you. And that's what you're saying, don't give all of you away, because that's almost like your intellectual property.
Right.
Because you come up with creative concepts and ideas, and while you're in the flow of that, you're excited about doing that, but then you don't have anything left for you.
Right.
Because you basically gave it all away.
Gave it all away. I had this woman, and I cannot remember, this has been decades ago. She happened to be talking, I don't even remember where it was, but she happened to be talking about relationships. But it applies to relationships, but it also applies to just how we treat ourselves. And the story was that, and she was talking about women in particular. Women, you are born and you have this bag of marbles, right? Mm-hmm. And you have so many marbles in your bag, but it's yours. And as you go through your life, you give away these marbles to people. Mm. And each time you give away a marble, you give away a little bit of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Some marbles are bigger than others, some are shinier than others, some are fancier than others, some are plain. But you start giving away your marbles. You want to make sure that you keep something in the bag for you. Mm-hmm. Because if you give away everything that you are, there is nothing left. And you can't even show up for all of those people to whom you've given everything away. And I thought, that is really powerful. Now, again, she was talking in the context of relationships, right? When you completely give away yourself, and you forget who you are. But even if you think about a job, or you think about a relationship, you think about a job, a professional relationship, if you don't at least keep some of your marbles for you and keep taking care of you, that's a lot of times what happens to people when their job goes away, or they have to change bosses, or the location shuts down. They've tied up so much of who they are into that job, that role, that company. We saw that when we carved out, and our business was carved out of the old company. There were so many people who were devastated because they were buyer. That's who they were. Mm-hmm. For generations, they'd all worked there. And so if you were taking away the name, if you were taking away the company, if they were having to go with the new company, who were they? Mm-hmm. Because that carried so much weight. The name carried so much weight. It was this whole family thing. And so don't forget, if you learn anything, even when you're pivoting, you got to keep something for you. You have to keep something for you. And that's not being, not nice. That's not being not compassionate. That's not being unkind. You have to be a little selfish in order to be selfless.
I was talking to this young man the other day, and he was saying, I need this idea, and what I want is this and this and this, and it's your idea, but you come up with the idea, but I'm going to go this. And I said, listen, let me tell you something. What I don't do is go back and forth. Now, if I'm coming up with the idea, I charge for that. That's a consulting fee.
Mm-hmm.
You want my creativity, but you want me to tell me how. We're not doing it. And there was times I would never have done that because creativity comes so easily and naturally to me.
Right.
Till I pivot one day and said, listen,
there's value in that.
He gives you power to make wealth, to obtain wealth. And if I gave you creativity, that's part of your wealth stream.
Right.
Especially in the pandemic, now you're looking for multiple streams of income. Like, wait a minute.
Right.
I'm giving you all these resources and I'm not getting anything out of it.
Right.
So you have to pivot at some point and say, what is to give away and what is to say, listen, there's a fee for that.
And give it because you want to.
Because I want to, yeah.
Because you want to. And that's, you know, when you talk about value, that was the other thing I wanted to say earlier is, you know, when I talked about you want to make sure that you are learning so that you can continue to deliver value.
Yeah.
Not that you are valuable. Because a lot of times when we start using that word about that's a valuable employee, I'm a valuable person, that means that someone else can decide when you're not. And so what does it mean when you're no longer considered a valuable employee? That's the difference between valuable and valued.
Yeah.
Right? And so what you want to do is you want to be able to deliver value and therefore be valued, not valuable. Because valuable also means expendable. And at some level, we're all expendable.
But it should be hard to replace you.
It should be. It should be hard to replace you. And at the end of the day, if they really want to replace you, they will.
They're going to replace you. But because what Beyonce said, I can have another you in a minute. In fact, it should be, if I'm in a fight with you, you should know that I fought you. So if you're going to replace me, it should be hard.
It should be hard.
You ought to be moaning and groaning if you do, but you can. Because we all are replaceable, but some people are not as easily.
Right.
My mother used to say that all the time. Let people know they need you just as much as you need them.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's the difference between valuable and valued, right?
Wow.
Because when you are valued, it is more likely that someone is going to work harder to not lose you, and that they are going to have a harder time replacing you because you are bringing something to the table that is uniquely you. You are bringing something to the table that is uniquely you. And that's what you want to do, right? Because each of us has unique value. Each of us has unique skills. We may all be, there are a million people that are coaching. There are a ton of people who are accountants. There are a ton of people who are marketing people. But no one does whatever they do the same way you do because we are all unique.
Well, it's like what Sherry Duff Patterson in St. Louis said about you. I love this lady. She can simplify anything so that it makes sense to everyone. That's a value.
Yeah. Right.
Because you said there could be millions of people coaching.
Right.
But you have a target audience that identifies with the way that you coach. And so isn't it important that we have some type of trait or skill that identifies us? And Latasha Cash Barnes says, this is good information. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, and thank you so much, Sherry, because I do simple because I like simple.
Yeah, me too.
I just, those $1,400 words, and I can use those too. But sometimes it just needs to be simple. Just simple. And so when people start talking at me, that's when I'm like, okay, so here's what you say. Here's what I heard. And it's usually pretty simple. And so I think I am not delivering value if the people that I'm talking to can't understand what I'm saying.
That's good.
You have to be able to relate to the people who need you and who are looking for assistance and who are looking for you to serve them. And that's important, right? Or not. You have a choice. You have a choice. So
can I shout out to Jabo?
Yes.
He's an employee here, and he's been in the hospital with COVID.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a shock to see him on. So I'm praying that all is well with you, Jabo. Thank you for joining us and listening to us at the hospital.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm just so appreciative every Tuesday. It just makes my day. And I might not need a nap today. I'm so fired up. I might be all right after the show.
I'm sleeping out.
Right? I might be all right this time. Right? I might be okay this time. But yeah, so the bottom line, guys, is, pivoting is not a bad thing. Change is not bad. Change is hard, but change is not bad. And think of movement that may be what someone else thinks is backwards or down, as a downshift in order for you to gain more power, more torque, to move faster towards what you want.
More twerk.
More torque.
Oh.
Torque. T-O-R-Q.
Okay.
Torque.
Okay.
More torque. See this mask. It's going to get me in trouble.
Okay.
It gives you more power to move where you want to move. So don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid to downshift. Keep your eye on where you're trying to go and then do what's necessary to get there. That's the bottom line. And surround yourself with people who, even if they don't get your vision, they get you enough to support the vision.
Say that again.
As that even surround yourself with people that even if they don't get your vision, they get you enough to support your vision.
What does that mean?
That means that not everybody's going to get your vision, but that's okay because God didn't give it to them; He gave it to you. And you want people who, even if they don't really get it, they love you enough, they get you enough, they support you enough to say, "You got this. What do you need me to help you with?" Even if they don't understand it and they're like, "We don't know why you're doing that, but okay, that's what you really want to do. I got you." That's who you want to surround yourself with. That's what a village is. Now, you also need people who are going to say that's crazy, right? So you do need people to let you know when you've kind of gone off track. But, you know, you want people who are also supporting you. And support can be, yes, let's go get this. And support can be, whoop, let's hold up and rethink that. Those are the people you need in your village. And don't be afraid for those people who leave you after a season. It's just time for them to go.
And you're right about that. By the time they leave, I'll be ready.
Right?
Like, whew, thank you. But let me say this. When you
Yes.
said, because you said this early on, I don't know if it was a while back, you said you have to first, you said on your commercial, if you don't know
Where you're going, yes.
Who you
It's
don't
all
know
about
who-
strategy and people. If you don't know where you're going, how do you know who needs to be on your team?
Right, because I was told by somebody that somebody else wanted to come back and do something, and I'm like, no. And that was the time that I wouldn't have said no. I would have been like, let me figure out what they can do.
Yeah.
I said, no, this is not, right now, this we
not
got
the
it where it
time.
needs to be.
Right.
That ain't what we need right now. No. So I got that from you because you really do have to know what it is you need.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't know what you need, you end up having a whole bunch of stuff
Absolutely.
that you don't even need.
Absolutely.
Wow.
You don't need. So yeah.
That's
So go out, figure out what your next pivot's going to be. Thank you, UK, St. Louis, Denver, Calabasas, California, Cleveland and Beaumont, Texas, Houston, Texas. What I miss? Hospital. Thank you. Carlsbad, California, Houston, Odessa, Longview. Thank y'all so much for being here. Talk It Out Tuesday with Jerry P. and Laurel. I really appreciate your being here. We heading into 6 months next month. We're going to have to celebrate.
It's been 6 months.
It'll be 6 months in September. Whoop, whoop. So I really appreciate the support, y'all, and we will catch you next week. Take it easy.